Picture this. A serene San Francisco morning, the usual sounds, gulls, the city kind of waking up, and then just instantly shattered. A massive explosion rips through this beautiful townhouse. An ordinary street becomes, well, just chaos. Fire, debris, everywhere. Today we're diving deep into this really extraordinary set of circumstances that tore through a city. It reveals layers of personal tragedy, yeah, but also these historical grievances, and frankly, a terrifying new kind of threat. This isn't just, a straightforward crime story. It's this complex web. It forces us to understand how ideologies can twist into violence and how personal the hunt for justice can get. You sent us a ton of material, police reports, personal notes, news articles, even internal emails. Our mission today, pull out the key insights, show you how a seemingly random act unfolds into this chilling pattern, one that challenged everything law enforcement thought they knew about terror.
Right. And what's really striking here is how it starts so small, so personal for Lieutenant Lindsay Boxer, our protagonist, a localized event. And then it just balloons,
Yeah.
citywide panic, national security stepping in, these deep historical roots suddenly becoming relevant. We'll be connecting some dots that might surprise you.
Okay, let's unpack that start then, the initial shockwave. So the morning begins, Lieutenant Lindsay Boxer, SFBD homicide. She's on her regular run with her dog, Martha. Pretty normal. She bumps into her friend, Assistant District Attorney Jill Bernhardt. Jill mentions a bad date, shows Lindsay some bruises that are, well, concerning. And then bam, that townhouse, corner of Alhambra and Pearson and Arena, it just explodes. And Lindsay, trained officer, she immediately reacts, calls 911. But then she does something unexpected. Against procedure, she runs into the burning building.
Yeah, that's a critical moment, isn't it? What makes someone run towards an explosion when every instinct, and frankly, every protocol, says run away? The material suggests it's pure instinct for her, right? Protect and serve, baked right in. Leads to this incredibly dramatic rescue.
Absolutely. She pulls an 11-year-old boy, Eric, out of the second floor. It's filled with debris, smoke, flames.
Yep.
Just harrowing.
Establishes her character immediately. But the shock isn't over. After the boy's safe, they find this red backpack nearby.
Right. Instant fear. Is it a secondary device? The bomb squad comes in, x-rays, steel curtains, the whole 9 yards. And inside, just a battery radio.
A taunt. A deliberate psychological play. It tells you something important about the perpetrators right away.
What's that?
They're playing games. They want to sow fear, demonstrate control, even without another explosion. It's about the threat, the psychological impact.
Chilling. And the townhouse? It belonged to Morton Lightower. Internet mogul, kind of infamous. Creative greed guy is how the sources put it. Sold off millions in stock while his company was failing, laid off half his staff. His wife, Charlotte, and their baby, Caitlin, they're missing. And later, Lindsay's friend, Claire Washburn, the chief ME, reveals Charlotte was 2 months pregnant. Just adds another layer of heartbreak.
So the victims aren't random. Lightower, a symbol of corporate excess. It immediately points towards a motive bigger than just, say, a personal grudge. It's sending a message.
And it wasn't an isolated message. Just days later, San Francisco gets hit again, but differently.
Very differently.
George Bengosian, a healthcare executive, found dead in his penthouse suite at the Clift Hotel. And the scene is, well, it's grotesque. His skin's this weird green-yellow color, hypoxic, eyes forced open, this orange fluid around his mouth.
And Claire's autopsy is key again. She finds he died from ricin, highly toxic poison, administered through drops on his tongue, then forced ingestion. It's insidious stuff, ricin. Relatively easy to make from castor beans, incredibly deadly, no antidote, a terrifying weapon. And Bengosian's company, Hopewell Healthcare, they had a history, right? Dumping poor accounts, high-risk patients, cut 140,000 families off their plan for profit.
Exactly. And found in his mouth, this crumpled business form, Hopewell logo on it, it declares war. We have declared war on the agents of greed and corruption. The era of economic apartheid is over. Your war is here. It is with us. Signed, August Spies.
That name, August Spies, it's not random. It connects directly back to the Haymarket Affair, 1886. Anarchist history. It signals this group sees themselves as part of a historical struggle against injustice, against what they call economic apartheid. It frames their violence ideologically.
So Lightower and Bengosian, both high-profile, both controversial business figures. That connection brings in the big guns, right?
Absolutely. FBI, DOJ, Homeland Security. The feds are involved now, and that's when Deputy Director Joe Molinari enters the picture. Sharp guy, charismatic, immediately sees this isn't just murder.
He sees it as domestic terrorism.
Exactly. It's that shift from individual crimes, however horrific, to a potential national security threat. The game has changed.
So the investigation ramps up. They start looking at key figures. First, there's the missing au pair from the Lightower house, Wendy Raymore. Leads point towards Berkeley. At the same time, Lightower's company, XL Systems, gets threatening emails. Also signed August Spies. They mention the baby, Caitlin, demand money for world health. Also traced to Berkeley Public Computers.
That threat against the child, your little Caitlin is counting on you. That's designed purely for maximum psychological pressure. It's deeply personal and cruel.
Yeah. We also learned about Stephen Hardaway, uses the alias Malcolm. He's an explosives expert, history of anti-WTO protests, bank robberies. And then there's Professor Roger Lamuse, Berkeley linguistics professor, radical views, seen stirring up a violent protest at a Bank of America.
So you see this blend, don't you? Sophisticated political messaging combined with very professional, coordinated violence. This August Spies group isn't amateur, they're organized.
But here's where it gets, well, even more complicated. A third murder happens, this time in Portland. The victim is Gerhard Propp, an OECD economist linked to that controversial MAI trade agreement. Remember the debates around that? This murder is different, though. It's brutal, feels personal, drowned in a tub, tied to a fishing lure. Lindsay feels something's off.
Her homicide investigator's gut feeling, it doesn't fit the pattern, right? The MO is wrong, it's too emotional maybe, and it breaks their supposed 3-day cycle. Plus, no August Spies calling card. Her theory starts to form. Maybe it's a copycat. Or perhaps a splinter group breaking off.
And bingo, she's right. Cindy Thomas, Sharp reporter, friend of Lindsay's, gets an email directly from August Spies. It says, point blank, that wasn't us in Portland.
Wow. Confirmation. So now you potentially have two distinct groups operating, or at least someone trying to ride their coattails. That makes the threat landscape incredibly complex.
Totally. And just as this investigation is getting impossibly tangled, tragedy strikes much, much closer to home for Lindsay.
Ah, yes. The personal thread running through this.
Her friend, Jill Bernhardt, remember the bruises? Turns out, she's enduring domestic abuse from her husband, Steve, quietly suffering. The strained laughter Lindsay noticed, it all clicks. Jill finally decides she's had enough, she's throwing him out.
It's such a stark contrast, isn't it? This huge public terror investigation, and then this hidden, deeply personal violence happening right beside it, highlights the human cost. And for Lindsay, this is her friend.
Exactly. It shifts everything for her. It's not just professional anymore. It becomes intensely personal. Then Jill goes missing. And then, the absolute horror. Another August Spies email lands in Cindy's inbox. It gives an address, a warehouse, 333 Harrison Street, Oakland. The message is chilling. You were warned, so we struck again.
And there's that instruction too, right? Return this to the Hall of Justice. Another direct taunt. They're practically playing with the police at this point. Unbelievable arrogance.
Lindsay goes to the warehouse. And inside, she finds Jill, shot in the back of the head. But Claire's autopsy reveals something even more twisted. The gunshot. That happened after Jill was already dead. The real cause of death was ricin poisoning.
Oh, wow. That's a major connection. The ricin ties it directly back to the original August Spies methodology, the Bengosian murder, and the post-mortem shot. That suggests something cold, calculated. It wasn't just about killing her, it was about sending a very specific, brutal message. Why Jill?
We get a glimpse into that from Michelle, the au pair. She's now with the group, apparently. Malcolm Stephen Hardaway tells her Jill wasn't killed for personal reasons. He says she represented the big bad state that's sanctioning the criminal pillaging of the world. Pure ideology. And ricin. He tells Michelle they gave it to Jill through her own asthma inhaler. Chit, he says.
Yeah.
Just chillingly casual. And Michelle had asthma too. She's terrified he could do the same to her.
That method, using her own inhaler, it's incredibly insidious. Personal violation on top of murder.
Jill's death just steals Lindsay's resolve. She digs into Jill's old case files, looking for anything, and she finds it. A newspaper clipping about Jill's father, Robert Meyer, he was a prosecutor back in 1970, involved in a case against a radical group called the Black National Army, or BNA. The raid became known as the Hope Street Five. 5 radicals died, including a student named William Billy Danko.
Okay, hold on. Danko. The name rings a bell. Billy Danko was the brother of Charles Danko, explosives expert, considered a white rabbit, one of those radicals who vanished for decades after the bombing era. And didn't the sources say Lightower and Bengosian were at Berkeley around 69, near the time of Hope Street? Wait, Bengosian, was he the informant, the one who betrayed the Hope Street group?
Yes, that's what the investigation uncovers. Yeah. Bengosian was the informant whose information led to that deadly raid. And then the final piece just clicks. Billy Danko's code name back in the BNA days.
No, don't tell me.
August Spies.
Oh my God. So this whole thing, it's not just ideology, it's revenge. Decades-old revenge. Charles Danko avenging his brother.
Exactly. It's this horrifying mix. Radical politics fused with deeply personal vengeance, targeting the informant, Bengosian, and perhaps Lightower, for other perceived betrayals from that era. And Jill, maybe because her father prosecuted the case.
It explains the cold calculation, the specific targets, personal trauma tangled up with political grievance. That's an incredibly potent, destructive combination, history echoing violently into the present.
And Danko isn't finished. The terror escalates again, another bombing this time at the Rincon Center. 16 people killed, including Frank Seymour. Who was he? The lead FBI agent from the 1969 Hope Street raid. Danko is tying up all the old loose ends, brutally.
He's systematically eliminating everyone connected to his brother's death and the downfall of that group.
Then, a break. Michelle, the au pair, she's horrified by Jill's murder, probably terrified for herself. She sends a final message to Cindy. She reveals Danko's ultimate target, the G8 finance ministers meeting, happening right there in San Francisco. She betrays the group.
That's a huge moment. Michelle's conscience, or maybe just self-preservation, finally breaks through the ideology. It gives law enforcement the crucial intel they need.
They raid the Hardaway cell. It ends violently. An explosion kills Hardaway, Malcolm, Julia, Robert, and Michelle herself. Caught in the crossfire, or perhaps silenced? But Charles Danko isn't there. He's still out there. His G8 plan is still active. Lindsay figures out his current identity. Jeffrey Stancer, a seemingly harmless academic teaching up at Reed College in Portland.
The quiet academic. Classic cover.
The climax goes down at the G8 reception, Palace of the Legion of Honor. Danko, disguised as Professor Stancer, gets inside. He plans to release ricin gas. Lindsay confronts him. It's physical. They wrestle. She manages to force the ricin canister into his own face. But in the exact same instant, chaos erupts elsewhere. A young woman, Annette Brandling, turns out she was one of Professor Lemou's radicalized students. She shoots the vice president. As Danko's dying from the ricin, he whispers to Lindsay, "There's always another soldier," chilling.
Wow. A synchronized attack. Danko executing his personal revenge plot, while Lemou's ideological followers use the chaos for their own violent statement. It shows the danger isn't just one person. Danko might be the mastermind of this plot, but the underlying ideology, the potential for more violence, persists. It's multi-layered.
Lemou, the professor, is arrested later. Facing exposure, he commits suicide in custody. Total commitment to the cause, right to the end.
Unwavering fanaticism.
So Charles Danko dies from his own poison. The vice president survives the shooting. But the aftermath, it lingers. Lindsay ends up in the hospital recovering. She's grappling with immense trauma, obviously, the loss of her friend Jill, her complex feelings for Joe Molinari, the FBI guy, and this heavy guilt, wondering if she could have done more for Jill, if she'd been more present, maybe things would have been different.
It raises such a difficult question, doesn't it? When someone like Danko channels personal trauma into this kind of extreme political violence, how do we even begin to untangle that? How does society, how do you listening, differentiate between legitimate grievances that need addressing and this kind of destructive extremism that just seeks to tear everything down? It's a tough line to walk.
Yeah, it really is. This whole deep dive forces us to look beyond just the explosions and the deaths, right? To the ideological battleground underneath, that constant fight for justice, the immense personal cost for people like Lindsay fighting on the front lines. And that final haunting question Danko leaves us with: does August Spies really die with Charles Danko? Or does the idea, the resentment, the anger, does it just keep simmering, waiting for that next soldier to pick up the mantle, maybe under a different name for a different cause, but fueled by that same fire? We've explored a lot of layers in this terrifying story today. What's the one thing that really stands out to you now after hearing all this? What insight are you going to carry forward?